I'm Andy Carvin, I'm not a bot. This is a cat stuck in a tree. And it's very rare that news organizations get to say something with such certitude, such as confirmed, a cat is stuck in a tree. And the reason for that is because covering breaking news is a lot more complex. Unfortunately, English language doesn't always have the nuance to explain some of these complexities. For example, when you hear a broadcaster saying, "We are getting reports that a cat is stuck in a tree," they are covering their asses. They do not totally know the facts yet. Sometimes they'll add a bit more nuance by saying instead, a cat is reportedly stuck in a tree, which suggests that they're feeling slightly more confident, but they still don't have all the evidence yet. And more cats. In this case, we have a cat that appears to be stuck in a tree. Appears is one of the most condescending words in the English language, if you ask me, being used in news. Because you're suggesting that you know what you're talking about in a broadcast, but honestly, do you really? It appears. Well, maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. Figure it out for yourself, audience. Sources tell us that a cat is stuck in this tree. Now, this is slightly better because at least you're alluding to the fact that you're doing your job. You're asking people to figure out what's going on. But sources is still kind of vague. This sucks when you say an anonymous source says a cat is stuck in a tree. Why even say that publicly? It would be a hell of a lot better if we went into at least a little bit more detail. Something such as this. Multiple independent sources in law enforcement and the fire department tell us that a cat is stuck in a tree. We may not know who these folks are, but at least they've specified the organizations involved. That makes me feel a little bit more confident about all this. Occasionally, you'll have a news organization say something like, "Trust Me Network News has learned that a cat is stuck in a tree." Does the average person who consumes news understand that the phrase "has learned" means not only have we confirmed it, it's a scoop, so na-na-na-na-na. In fact, if you take a look at all this rhetoric, it all basically fits into a matrix. We're going from the left to the right based on the amount of credibility of the information you think you have, and up to down or down to up based on whether you need to cover your ass to protect yourself from being fired. Interestingly, this is something linguists study, and it's called evidentiality. Now, it's a cool word because it kind of summarizes what we're talking about here. It's about how do we use language to convey evidence. We do it really poorly in English. We have to use all those vague forms of rhetoric. There are lots of indigenous languages that actually do this a lot better. In the Makah language, which is a Native American language, they're able to convey things that are basically prefixes and suffixes within a verb. So when they say something like, "A cat is stuck in a tree," you know if it's someone actually saw it, did they hear it? In the case of the Eastern Pomo language, they can actually convey that they felt a cat was stuck in a tree. So perhaps the person got scratched. Yugahir, which is a group of languages that are in Siberia, they can add endings to nouns and verbs that will suggest whether or not they witnessed it themselves or they weren't a witness. And so, for example, you might have "a cat is stuck in a tree" according to someone else. The Shipibo language, they specifically focus on whether or not something is quoted. So if they use one particular ending, it's basically saying, "It said there's a cat stuck in a tree." But if they use another one, it's saying, "She told me specifically a cat is stuck in a tree." Mamiende, another indigenous language, they're so sophisticated about this, they're able to convey whether you've learned it firsthand, secondhand, or thirdhand. So while you still may be saying just "a cat is stuck in the tree," you know the difference. Estonian, I think, is interesting because they're so skeptical, they actually have endings to convey doubt. So it said a cat is stuck in the tree, but I seriously doubt it. Now, what's interesting is when you map out evidentiality around the world, you see a pattern. It's really common in indigenous languages in North America, South America, Australasia, and basically South Asia. I don't know why that's the case, and no one's really studied it. My sense is probably that if you're essentially a hunter-gatherer in a life or death situation, you want to convey information as quickly as possible. With English, not so much. We take our time, we kill time. We don't allow dead air on radio and television. When in other cases, we could actually spend the time being more specific, telling people in details how we know the cat is stuck in the tree. We have just gotten off the phone with the owner. Photos of the cat on Instagram match the location on Google Earth. And ultimately, we're able to confirm that that cat is no longer stuck in the tree.